Here we are.
Here we are.
Thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having a show.
Let's start that way. How many times have you listened to the show?
I think 3.
You don't have to actually answer.
Oh.
You have really?
Yeah,
3?
I think I've told you each time.
I thought you just did it once, and that's when I was on somebody else's show because you wanted to see if we could still be married.
No, I've listened to 3 of yours.
Really?
Yeah, the AMAs, because I want to know what you're saying.
Oh, about you?
Yeah. If you're talking about other people, I don't listen.
Oh.
You might be talking about me, then.
I think I talk about you a lot, probably.
And that's the other reason I don't listen. What I don't know, I don't have to be mad about.
So one of the questions we get almost on a daily or weekly basis is something that at the beginning I thought you might be sending in over and over and over again because it's our house. And so, but I don't think it is. I think it's something that is just pervasive. So how do you manage to live with and be married and most of the time love, all the time love, most of the time like, somebody with ADHD, somebody who struggles with anxiety or OCD, some of these big dun 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 dragon labels. How have you learned to create a life within that? By the way, we have not prepped this.
I am not an expert on any of those things.
You're an expert on loving me.
I'm an expert on you.
Yes.
So you're the only person that I've been married to. So
let's say it. How have you stayed in love with me?
I'm gonna keep it to
all right.
What's it like to live with you and love you with the tendencies you may have that may be generalizable, but I don't know. I think the biggest one is a change in expectations. So I may think that tidiness is a priority among all adults. And that turns out not to be true. So where I would prefer, people are coming over, let's tidy up the house.
I prefer, like, people are coming over.
Let's
be on the
house.
Front porch.
Or be mowing the
Yes.
front yard.
Yes.
Because if they're coming at 6, I can start mowing at 5:30 and
Duh.
plenty of time. So shifting expectations. I'm not going to have a tidy house. And that is just the life that I chose. But I never have a boring house either. So
I in my head remember it approximately 10 years ago-ish that there was like a distinct change. And then probably 5 years ago when we were leaving Texas and moving here and things were just a mess, that there was like yet another change. And I felt the air leave the house in a good way. Like there was the pressure that I lived to.
that was me giving up.
Is that yeah, was that like I quit? But there was like a distinct shift, and in an odd way, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I felt like without that constant, I'm not doing this right, I have felt space to then start to slowly, quietly inch my way towards like being a little more tidy sometimes.
Yeah. That's true. And some of it is letting go of expectations other people. Like when you name those markers 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that's also when, as an adult, I've quit being so consumed with what other people think of me or think of us. And so some of the buildup was, what are other people going to think if John's still in the shower when they get to our house? Or what are our parents going to think if they show up and the house is a wreck or the front yard has weird things piled and stacked here and there? And just coming to a place where, I don't know, this is how we live. We live in chaos and welcome.
Welcome to
Yeah, rather than putting out some sort of trying to pretend that we live a tidy life when we don't.
That sounds like an uncomfortable response that I think is pretty powerful. So tell me if I'm wrong here. What I'm hearing you say is when you, I'm going to say do the work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. But when you started doing the work on you,
Mm-hmm.
and we stopped butting heads on, it's got to look like this, like, but I've got so much going on here, right? And then it was almost like when you went, whew, and you can call it giving up, I would say making peace with. The other
Same
side of it is, I I don't know. I just felt there was such more space in the house for joy and peace and laughter, which then for me calms everything down. And then it's like, oh, I see that pile. I'm not going to get to it, but I see it now. I've never seen that pile before because I was too busy trying to like walk on a rope that I didn't understand.
Yeah. And I think it also, when you think of those markers 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago when we moved here, I stopped working in schools. 10 years ago, I stopped working full time. If we were both still leaving the house, one of us on time and getting home in the evening and then coming in and like dinner's got to be ready and then we got to start the next day and we need the decks cleared to start a whole new day. If we were both doing that, I don't know that I could have come to that place of whatever you called it, coming to peace with it.
What is it? The story I've told myself over time is, especially in the last couple of years, as it's become incredibly important for me, something I'm trying to work on hard, is being on time. And it was when I started working here, and I wasn't the leader of an organization. And when you're a leader of an organization, you kind of live in a bubble because everybody just morphs to what your weirdness. Here, there was like some really poignant, like, you're being very disrespectful of all of the people in this room. And you see here, there's a whole team of people. And if I roll in 6 minutes late, it's like, oh, and I'm thinking, I'll get the show done. The show's going to be fine. I've already checked the calls. I know it's coming. I'll be all right. But there's still 5 or 10 or 15 people sitting there waiting. And how have you navigated just that honest feeling, like sitting in the car waiting for us to go to church, or like, we're going to leave at 5:30 for our date because we're nerds, and it's 6:15 and I'm getting out of the shower. Like talk through that, like, feeling of disrespect.
That's another one. There's two parts to it. And really, though, it overlaps with what I was saying before. Some of it is expectation. I just don't expect to be on time for things. I think our church community does not expect us to be on time. Our kids don't expect you to be on time. I know. And we try to make adjustments, like telling you it's really 7:15 is when we need to leave, when 3 of the 4 of us know it's really 7:30, but this gives us a better shot at leaving on time. So some of it's giving up, like, just like, oh, we're just not going to be. And then some of it is letting go of if somebody wants to give us a dirty look when we walk in late to church, well, okay. And just not being as concerned about that. And then the other thing, again, because I'm not working full-time, I work from home, I work for myself, so you're not causing me to be late for something. So it's less. The stakes are lower. So I can give you more room to be late, and it doesn't, I don't know.
So when I talk to people out on the road, they say it must be so fun. Like, just this picture of like y'all's house sounds so fun. I know there's another side of fun, which is exhausting. So how do you navigate that? Because I know that someone who like is working hard, but man, time is hard for me. Like I'm called a few experts, like, because I'm at the end of my rope on like clutter, like, and we're not hoarders, but I got so much stuff. I just got stuff. We're not, but I just got clutter, and but I'm at this weird place, like I'm out of tricks. Right, the tricks that I use to like cut weight, the tricks I use to exercise, the tricks I use for nutrition don't work for that for some reason. So there's the other side of that, like, oh my gosh, it must be so fun, and those are hilarious, and our daughter's a hurricane, she's hilarious, and our son is so witty and funny, and they're always cracking jokes, and there's the other side of that, which is just exhausting. How do you navigate that?
I take naps, and I go to bed early. What else do I have?
I check out, yeah.
Yeah, again, it's in that same bucket of just letting go. You didn't trick me. You weren't on time while we were dating and had all your stuff together then. So I knew what I was getting. I used to say, it's a good thing you're cute.
Yeah.
That's the same thing I said about our kids.
But as I'm getting older, I can't lean on that anymore.
You better
See.
figure something out.
I know. What about this? Folks who struggle mightily with anxiety and ADHD, and even into depression, often have really negative self-image. Because it's like, I know, you know what I mean? I know that I'm not on time. I know that. And I worked really hard to get my breakfast done. I worked really hard to be present with the kids. In my head, I'm like, you're going to spend some time with your wife. You're going to make sure you eat a healthy breakfast. You're going to do all these things. And then it's like, the freaking clock won't stop spinning. And so, and that's just one thing. Like, there's moments of lucidity where I see, like, this house is a disaster and 97.8% of it is me. And the rest of it is a middle school boy, right? It's embarrassing. It's shameful. How do you navigate loving somebody who, like, doesn't always share that same love for themselves?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm doing it well. I guess part of it is loving you. And so, like, beyond that, I don't know what to do. But I can love you without loving your behaviors and be in relationship with you. I think maybe this is another switch that has happened, is to stop trying to be in relationship with your behaviors and your mess and what that is, and just kind of jump over that and be in relationship with you, the person who means well and is always kind and has a million other things that I love. And if I stacked those up, because I love lists, if I stack those up on lists, that way outweighs the fact that you leave your stuff everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's worth the trade, I guess. If this is the trade to make, like, well, you get this great guy, but he's a mess. Well, yeah, I'll deal with the mess.
I would say the greatest gift you bring me is like a constant stop pulling on your shirt. You don't look unattractive, and stop. You can leave that stuff there. I'd rather you come to bed. Or, like, there's some moments that I've felt, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, where it's been very much a focus on, like you just mentioned, like, you're good with me. And for some weird reason, that has slowly begun to let the shame smoke out, and almost like a release valve. Then I can't describe it other than people with ADHD and OCD and anxiety are so frustrating to be in relationship with, because it's so like, why do you have to be like that? And it's like, I don't know, right? It's like we were talking with our kids the other day, like one of our children, it was like, does that feel good? And they were like, no, it doesn't feel even good. But in a strange way, you leaning into that, instead of like setting a marker over here and like, you will meet this expectation. And for me, my body response to that is like, that's my dad whose expectation I'm still trying to meet. That's my teacher who at one time, or the football coach who I'm still, instead of that, it's like moving all the way up here and be like, I will love you despite the piles. And for some reason, I start to see them and be like, all right, I'm gonna get that taken care of. I do know in our like our kitchen area, I dropped that guitar and all that stuff right there in that huge pile. I know that. I know it's there, but I saw it. And even when I was leaving this morning, I had to make a choice between the pile and timeliness. And I chose being on time, but I did see it, which is huge.
Did you choose being on time because you knew I was going to get here first?
No, I chose being on time because I had an announcement to make in front of 1,000 people. So I had to be there on that stage when the time came. But it's there's been times I've sent a text message like, move me to third because I'm coming in hot 4 minutes late or whatever. But some of that's just being, I know it's self-reinforcing over the last probably over the last year, as I've tried to really work hard, especially at work, on getting on time. There's like there's more peace. Like, I feel better, right? Being here early and I can prepare, and people aren't stressed and people aren't frustrated and trying to bite their tongue around me, or like Kelly, who's not biting her tongue and just letting it fly, right?
Thanks, Kelly.
There's just a peace, right? And I'm slowly leaning into that, which I like, but.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is me not shaming you helps you feel less shame.
But I don't even, but I don't, there's been some of that, and we've both lobbed that grenade at each other over the course of 21 years, but I think it's less of that. I think it's more there was just there's a pair of glasses you wore that was, this is the way this is supposed to be. And I kept saying, but it didn't have to be. We could just stay up till midnight and go to this punk rock show that didn't start till 1 a.m. And you're like, I know, but for the next 6 days, it will take us that long to get back. And I'm like, I know, but it'd be so fun right now.
Yes.
All of this is problems for future John and Sheila, but right now. And so there's just that toggle. And we've laughed about it over 20 years, like, thank God that I have you, because I literally don't know where I would be. And the other side of it is, like, you never would have been to a punk rock show.
That is true. I do want to point out 2 things. I'll answer, but first, because I'm here, part of the issue with your timeliness is that you just mentioned we're going to be out till midnight for a punk rock show that starts at 1 a.m. And there's where the problem starts. In response...
Those are the same time, basically. Anything after 11 and before 3 a.m., that's about the same time.
In response, though, some of it has also been, I quit picking up after you. So there was it has to be this way, so I'm just going to do it all myself. Since you don't care about having a tidy house and I do, I'm just going to clean up all your mess for you.
God, I felt that
and
anger,
so then there was that resentment.
Yeah.
Super rage cleaning.
And then I'd come bebopping in from work like, hey, and it would just be...
Because you hadn't noticed the piles to begin with, so you also didn't notice the absence of piles. It was just like, hey, guys, what you been doing all day?
Pew, pew. Yeah.
And so that was definitely a source of built-up resentment. Same with, like, John, you're supposed to be at work in 30 minutes, and you're...
Still in my gym shorts.
haven't showered or anything. So letting go of that, and, like, you want to have piles, or even if you don't want them, you made piles. Okay, we're just going to live in a pile house, and I'm going to carve out a little corner that I'm going to keep tidy, and no one else is allowed in my corner.